Now that the strategy of regime change in Venezuela is beginning to fail, the White House is starting to get really aggressive with journalists who don't portray the situation the way the US government would like it to be portrayed. A lot of media outlets refer to Juan Guaido as the claimed president, that he's not actually the president, but he's a guy who's just claiming to be. Now, the White House, a spokesman got into a verbal altercation with a journalist over the refusal to recognize Juan Guaido as the official president of Venezuela. At the press briefing on Tuesday, spokesman Robert Palladino objected to news coverage describing Juan Guaido as opposition leader or self-proclaimed president rather than interim president, as Washington has declared him to be.
However, we have noticed in news coverage that some outlets are incorrectly referring to Juan Guaido as the opposition leader or the self-proclaimed president. Neither is correct. A few basic facts. Millions of Americans and more than 50 countries recognize Juan Guaido as interim president of Venezuela. He is appointed and credentialed ambassadors to international organizations in the United States and numerous other democratic nations and other democratic nations. So to refer to Juan Guaido as anything but interim president falls into the narrative of a dictator who has usurped the position of the presidency and led Venezuela into the humanitarian, political, and economic crisis that exists today.
Now, of course, this flies in the face of the almost 100 countries that recognize Maduro as the official president of the country. Not that that would really mean anything. Just because another country thinks somebody's the leader doesn't mean that they are. This doesn't make Juan Guaido any more of a legitimate president than Nicolas Maduro does. The actual procedures of the Constitution of Venezuela declares that Maduro is the president. They allege election misconduct on his part, yet no evidence of this is presented. Yet Juan Guaido feels that he can just unilaterally declare himself the president on no grounds. And what part of the Constitution that allows him to do this is, well, it's not exactly been expressed quite yet. Now, the whole thing here for Palladino's argument is that Juan Guaido's legitimacy is invoked by the Venezuelan Constitution, except that the Constitution only envisions a 30-day period for interim president, which means even if it was legitimate, his interim presidency would already be over. Now, what we have here is very clearly the United States government browbeating, bullying the media into presenting things the way they want them to be presented and not as they actually are. It's very clear here who is the president and who is not. Nicolas Maduro is. Juan Guaido is not. Yet many of the media are not yet willing to actually promote Juan Guaido as the legitimate president because he's not. He's not holding the office. He wields no power except what thefts have been taking place by the United States government, including the assets of the state Venezuelan oil companies and the gold holdings in the UK central bank. But you see what's going on here. The United States is not getting its way, so it's lashing out the media for not supporting them enough, even though they have been supporting them since the beginning of all this. But if one journalist says, we don't want to use this term, claiming that he's a legitimate president when he's not, the White House gets mad and lashes out at them. Now, probably we could attribute this to being the personality and the leadership style of Donald Trump, but I don't think that's the case. This is the imperialist, quote-unquote, deep state. In other words, the actual functioning of capitalism. There is no deep state. This is how empire works. They're mad that they're not getting their way, and they want the media to lie even more in order to forward their interests. And now the media has done that, except that they don't do it in certain ways like this. They're not referring to someone as a legitimate president when they're not, and they're getting angry about it. This is really just an expression of the frustration of the empire in their failure to overthrow Nicolas Maduro, which is the rightful president of Venezuela. And we can probably expect more outbursts like this to take place in the future.
Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.